Hello everybody, it's Captain Hooch here. Today I want to talk about the Elite Dangerous Engineers update, or as some people have come to know it, the RNGineers. Now, YouTuber Obsidian just did a video on this topic, and I'm making this in reply to him, so down in the doobly-doo below you will find a link to his video. If you've not seen it yet, I recommend you pause this, go watch his, and then come back and finish mine. Okay, I'm going to assume that you've paused now, watched his video, and we'll go forward. The reason I'm doing a video reply to Obsidian is that I feel that he was way too neutral about the topic, and while I respect some neutrality when you're dealing with issues like this, we also need to, in a case of Elite, it's time when I think neutrality does need to kind of be pushed to the side a little bit. Now, we can't just go yelling at each other, screaming, "You're wrong, no, you're wrong." We need to take a stance. We need to sit down and have a serious discussion. There are people who like the randomness of the RNG, and there are people who just flat out hate every single bit of it. And we're not going to make everyone happy, so let's get that idea out of our heads right now. No matter what solution, if any, is ever proposed, nothing will make everyone happy. But we do have to find a compromise so that both sides of the fence can at least say, yeah, I don't hate this. I don't love it, but I don't hate it, because there will be people who will love it, and I'm going to propose my idea for what I think could be done better. But first I want to talk about why people love and hate this. The problem with Elite has been metas. We have had, specifically in the case of combat, we've had the shield tank meta, and we've had the silent running meta, and we've also had the meta of which ships are good. When I started the game, the Viper and the Python were the combat meta. The Viper was cheap, it was the go-to ship for just generally being a badass in space, and the Python was like its big brother. Then the Python's agility got nerfed, and people moved more into the Viper, and the Anaconda, of course, with the game being new, was still too expensive for a lot of players to really fly and afford to keep outfitted. And it was also a lot harder to make money back then. Then we got the Vulture and the Fer-de-Lance added to the game. The Vulture became the replacement for the Viper. People just kind of quit flying Vipers. They would fly it just long enough to get themselves into a Vulture, and then they just stick with that. And then the Fer-de-Lance, it was kind of the PvP ship. Then we got the Federal Assault ship, and people started flying that a little more. At first people hated it because it just didn't have any good shields, but then the silent running builds got found, and people realized that hull tanking was a little more viable, and they started flying the Federal Assault ship, and it became kind of the alternative to the Vulture and the Fer-de-Lance. Then the Fer-de-Lance got an agility upgrade and a power plant upgrade, and people started flying that more as the high-end combat ship. And a lot of the older ships that were the meta kind of got left in the dust. I mean, we're not seeing as many combat Pythons or combat Vipers anymore. And that's bad. Now, I'm not saying every ship should be, balanced to the point where, every ship is equally as good as every other ship. No, that'd be boring. But we need to get away from metas. And what we've got going on right now is we have, as I said, the shield tank meta and the hull tank meta with the silent running. And neither of these are good, because if you've played any other online multiplayer game like this, or any MMORPG games, then you know that we are dangerously close to hitting that point where if you don't have the super mega ultra purple rainbow farting gear of Doom, or in this case, the super mega ultra purple ship build rainbow farting ship of Doom, or that's a tongue twister if I ever said one, try saying that 3 times fast, but if you don't have that, then your ship sucks. You're not going to be a good combat pilot. Nobody's flying Vipers in the combat versus Anacondas anymore. Nobody's taking Eagles up against Vipers anymore. The Sidewinder, people are rushing to get out of it as fast as possible. Ships like the Adder are basically being swept under the rug. The trading ships are pretty much the only thing that's remained consistent since the beginning of the game. And the exploration ships, they've remained consistent since the beginning of the game. And the Engineers really proposes a way to mix that up, to make sure that there is truly no ultimate ship build because of the RNG on primary effects. Now, you'll see here I'm running an Imperial Eagle through the Engineers, and I'll be later using this Imperial Eagle in an Enhanced Drives testing video, which you can look for either tomorrow morning or early next week, since I'll be working all weekend. So, let's talk about, why else the RNG is good. The RNG is also good because, as I said, it not only mixes things up, but it also ensures that there's no chance whatsoever that people will end up with the super ultra mega purple rainbow farting ship of doom build that everybody must have, otherwise they suck. And it gives us a reason to get out there and do things other than just fight and just trade and just explore, because we gotta go grind for mats, we gotta go explore the galaxy, and and David Braben did say that he felt where players were locking themselves into one activity, that was their fault, and they needed to do something to fix that. And I agree, they do. Because myself, I primarily trade. I'll log in for a few hours, I'll hop in my cutter, I'll do a few trade runs, maybe go hit a community goal. If I get super bored, I might try some mining or combat, but aside from that, I mean, the only other involved activity I do is I get the exploration bug once in a while, and I'll go travel around in the black. And that's really not what they want us to do. They want us to get out there and see the game. So, by having the Engineers added, and the fact that everybody's going to want ship upgrades, they're going to have to go out, they're going to have to find the mats, they're going to have to get them, bring them to the Engineers, they're going to have to decide what they want on their ship, and they're going to have to go out and travel all over doing all this. And that's a good thing. But on the other side of the fence, we have the argument that the RNG is too damn high. And yeah, it is too damn high. I agree 100% with that. But I also agree with the previous point, too, that the amount of RNG is necessary. But I don't think it's as necessary as the people in favor of this system think it is. You see, we have the issue right now that you have your primary effects, your secondary effects, and in the case of weapons, you have the special effect. We have the case now that you really have no control over the primary effects. They are just pure dice roll depending upon what the rating is. You'll have a range which it'll likely fall within, but that range can be, higher or lower than, what you think it might be. Because you'll see when we just did this here that the ranges are a lot bigger than what it showed when we were just looking at the options for what upgrades we could do. Those were just the averages. And while that's fine, it's also not going to be consistent. As you'll see here, I mean, I had one high, to another high at the bottom, then the two in the middle were really low, and I'm trying that one again, obviously. And then you've got the secondary effects, which are basically a crapshoot. You're just throwing the dice out, and you're hoping they land on something that will make your negatives better and your positives more positive. And then when you get to weapons, which we'll cover later, you've got the specials, and you don't even get to choose those, and that's bad. So I was thinking, how could this be fixed? What could be done to make it better? Well, there's a few things that we could do. One, let's keep the RNG for primary effects. That's fine. I understand this 100%. These are experimental upgrades, and everybody's going to, have different things that they have a preference for. Like, somebody might want their engine's capacity in this case to be not too much bigger, but they also don't want to lose too much in their other capacities and recharge rates. They just want slightly increased engines, and the RNG could say, nope, we're going to give you super increased engines and super reduced everything else. And that might not be what somebody wants, whereas somebody else may want it with the super increased engines and the super reduced everything else. And that's fine. So that's kind of where the RNG needs to be left. But in order to keep from getting screwed on those rolls, we have the secondary effects, which we also have zero control over. They are random. You could get one, you could get 6 of the damn things. You don't know how many you're going to get. So, what I'm thinking could be done here to make this better is that when it comes to the secondary effects, that it will roll and tell you how many positive and negative effects you're getting off your roll, and then give you a list and you pick. Do you want to have a positive increase to your weapons capacity? Or for your negative, you could take a negative to your system's recharge. And that way, we could refine our engineer roles. And I do feel that we should get, for the primary effects, one free reroll. Because I can explain this using games like Dungeons & Dragons. I've done a lot of tabletop RPGs in my day, and in a lot of these games, you eventually run across the ability to reroll something. And that's a good thing. That's something that we need. Because right now, you can get completely screwed on your primary effects rolls, and then completely screwed again on your secondary effects rolls. So I think one free reroll is absolutely necessary, and for the secondary effects, I think a roll that just tells you how many specials and negatives you get, and then letting you pick which specials and negatives you get, and rolling for, how positive and how negative the secondary effects are, that's necessary, and that would help make the primary effects fall more into line with what we are looking for our specific use. Then, when we get down to the weapons, this is one that really needs an overhaul. On top of what I mentioned before, we have the problem that the special effect of the weapon, we may want a specific one. Like earlier, I was building a ship to test thermal lasers out. I wanted to see, I think it's the thermal shock upgrade, the one that imparts heat damage onto your target. That's brilliant. I've seen a lot of people do some crazy stuff with that, and I wanted to fool around with it and try it out. And I ended up having to roll probably about 50 times just to get a thermal shock weapon that wasn't screwed on primary and secondary effects and have thermal shock on it. It was honestly extremely infuriating, and that's a problem, you see. Right now, the way it's set up, you could say, I want thermal shock lasers, or maybe I want concordant sequence lasers, and you'll go to it, and you'll roll it, and then you will get absolutely brilliant primary effects, and absolutely brilliant secondary effects, and then you either get no special, or you don't get the special you want. We have no control over that. That is crap. That is rubbish. It needs to change. Frontier, fix this shit. Sorry, getting a little angry, but you guys must understand my point of view, that if we can't have some control over the engineers, then we're basically, hoping for the best. It's like sticking your head in a guillotine and hoping that it doesn't go off. It's not going to work. We're going to end up spending way too much time, we're going to end up wasting way too many mats, and people are going to get frustrated by this. And yes, eventually, people who really want this stuff are going to take the time to grind it out, and they're going to take the time to get the upgrades exactly how they want them within their personal tolerance range of what they find acceptable, and they're going to make sure that they might spend hours or days or weeks or months just trying to get the perfect upgrades for their ship. And how do we know people are going to do this? Because we already have seen it done with rank grinding. People are going to find out where the upgrade mats are, the most efficient way to grind for them, and they're going to come with a crap ton of them in their hold, and they're just going to keep hitting try again, and that is not fun. You're padding the gameplay with RNG, and that's a bad thing. You're also taking people who may not have the time to do this, and you're punishing them against the people who do have the time to do this. And yeah, I understand, Elite's one of those games where you kinda gotta have time to play it to get yourself established, but this is just ridiculous. We need to set it up in such a way that, as I said, the primary effects can stay random. The secondary effects get a random roll where you can choose what secondary effects you will get, and then it'll roll to see how positive or how negative they are for each positive and negative effect you chose. And then for your special, just if you're using a weapon and you get a special, pick which one you want. And if you want to keep an RNG to say there's a chance it may not take, fine, I will let that slide. But right now, the RNG is too damn high. And I understand both sides of the argument, but I disagree with the people who say it's perfect the way it is, because it's not. It's going to cause people to have to spend more time grinding and less time playing. They're going to be spending all their time at the engineers, spending all their mats, spending all their credits, and not getting what they want. And yeah, I know, with an RNG system, you'll never get exactly what you want. You're never going to roll a 20, 600 times in a row. It's not going to happen. But you can get something closer to what you want. You could get a little more control over how this is going down. And you could actually pick what you're going for. And that's what we need right now. And that's really all I have to say on this topic. I hope you guys and gals agree with me on this, and if you agree or you disagree, leave a comment down below. For now, though, this is Captain Hooch, signing off. Have a good night, everybody.